Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Asawari Savant, and it's a privilege to moderate this session for today. I welcome you to the live panel discussion on cancer and genomics, what lies ahead, on behalf of Voice of Healthcare. Let me begin this session by welcoming our eminent guest for today's discussion, Mr. Yogeendra Dawalkar, National Sales Manager for Premas Life Sciences. Welcome to this session, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Asawari, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for
So,
inviting me.
yeah, Mr. Yogendra Dawalkar has 26 plus years of rich experience in the field of life sciences, molecular diagnostics, and analytical instrument solutions. He has worked in diverse areas such as forensics, molecular clinical diagnostics, public health, basic and applied research, pharma QA/QC, petrochemicals, food and environmental testing. So, with that, let me start with the first question for Mr. Dawalkar today. Let us start the session with Mr. Dawalkar giving us a brief on what genomics is in cancer and what is Cancerdx. On to you, sir.
Yeah, so when you talk about genomics per se, genomics is the study of DNA. And when you talk about the impact of genomics on cancer, so as we know, cancer is some mutations or some changes happening in the DNA of an individual, and that leads to an excessive growth of cells. So, if you are able to find out what exactly is this mutation or this change which is happening from the normal, that gives us a good idea as to how we can uh, treat it or take some action against spread of this cancer. So, genomics basically helps us understand this change or find out this change and gives us opportunities to address it.
Definitely, understanding more about genomics in cancer would give us a heads up. So, moving on, as today is World Cancer Awareness Day for 4th of February, we would like to know in further detail from you. So, my next question would be, how is genomics disrupting Cancer DX today? What are your opinions on this one?
So basically, I mean, if you look at the scenario a few years back, I mean, any health issue that a patient used to have, I mean, they used to go for a diagnostic test, go to the lab, and do some routine blood test. If nothing comes up in that, then maybe or they go to some iterative testing like an imaging or a CT scan or things like that, and then you look at what is happening. Today, what happens is you have an option of doing a molecular testing. So if you, I mean, if a clinician, for example, suspects that, say, for example, in the case of breast cancer, if there is a lump, a clinician has an option of directly going into a molecular testing by doing a BRCA test, which is a well-known test for finding out whether the lump or the tissue has a cancerous component into it. So this is one of the major advantages that you get with cancer and with genomics solutions.
Okay, that was great to know. It is definitely an advanced thing in the field of cancer for everybody. And how do you feel that how has the market outlook for oncology changed over the last few years? How was it before a few years, and how what all changes are very visible according to you in this field?
So I would say here that I think definitely one part is the awareness. So awareness among the clinicians. So we have more clinicians who are aware about the latest technologies that are available in the market today. Clinicians who were some years back only looking at iterative testing like imaging or say fish or karyotyping, uh, which used to take a long time. So if you have to start testing from day one, I mean, the ultimate output of the test, which could give some indication to the clinician, could take weeks to months. So today the clinicians are much more aware, and based on the initial tests, if they suspect that an NGS or a genomics test has to be done, they have the know-how or the wherewithal to recommend such a test for a patient, and that helps to give a faster diagnosis and use a therapy which, if available, can help the patient.
Okay.
Because what we see today is that, I mean, most of the times, the patient, like a cancer patient, when he goes and visits a clinician, most of the times it's, I mean, rather, I would say only 10% of the times it's in a stage one cancer, and maximum amount of times it is either stage 2 3, and almost 30% of the time it is stage 4. So at that point, it is very difficult to treat the patient, and you can only possibly delay the inevitable, or just do some sort of a pain relief for the patient.
Okay. So definitely using this technology of genomics in cancer would help us in getting the diagnosis earlier, faster for the patients, as well as can you please talk about a little bit for early diagnosis, and how is your company working for reaching even faster diagnosis for the patients? Can we employ this technology into that use for this purpose?
Okay, so I mean, maybe I just go back one step. So as I said earlier, I mean, a patient, when he goes to a doctor first, the first testing that is recommended is some blood tests, followed by imaging, maybe ultrasound, or maybe a CT scan, MRI. These are the tests which are recommended. After that, you look at IHC testing or fish or karyotyping, and then go into molecular testing. So today, what happens is that all this process can be reduced. So if a clinician suspects some sort of a cancer is there, so you can directly go in for a biopsy, a tissue biopsy, and which can help him to find out what is the mutation, or what is the problem with the particular individual, and look at options which can be used for treating that particular uh, mutation. So it becomes more like a precision medicine approach. And the other major advantage today is you have capabilities or labs which also provide screening tools. So as a routine, these can be implemented, and can give you a pre-warning to help you, I mean, stay ahead of the curve.
Definitely, that would greatly help us in uh, detection of the disease with more accuracy and in so much lesser time that as
Exactly.
compared to before. So, sir, how is the technology of this cancer and Cancer DX in the Western countries? Is it similar to what we have, what we observe in India right now? And how does India compare to that with the West? What are your outlook on that one?
So basically, I mean, let me also share some thing. I mean, what has happened is there has been a global consortia which was formed, ICGC, International Cancer Genomics Consortium, and the purpose of this was to generate data. So you do a whole genome sequencing of individuals, and India has also contributed with data from Indian population. And the purpose of this was to generate a database, and then from that database, look at what are the biomarkers which are responsible for causing different diseases, whether it is rare disease, whether it is cancer. So if you are, since we are talking about cancer, so once you have have the database and you identify a particular biomarker, then you can design a test based on NGS, which will help you screen or test for a particular mutation. So this is the basic scenario. Now, what has happened is Western countries like US, Europe, Australia, Japan, they have actually already done this generation of database. So, if I give an example, UK has practically, I mean, started off with 100,000 whole genome sequencing data, and then they increased it to 500,000. So, by generating this data, they now could do some analysis and find out, okay, what is the most prevalent biomarker to talk about in the UK population. Now, what this actually has done is this has also enabled a huge amount of startups. So, because when you generate such a huge amount of data, you need tools to analyze. So IT becomes an integral part. So you need to have tools for analyzing this data. Once you analyze the data, you find out the biomarkers. And once you find out the biomarkers, then you can have startups or companies who can then use these biomarkers to develop tests. And these can be specific tests. So this is what has been done in other parts of the world. And India today actually needs to do more amount of whole genome sequencing to create this database, because if you see the diversity of population in India is very much vast. I mean, as compared to the West, we have different sections or different regions of India have some variation in the profile. So for that, I mean, government of India or philanthropic organizations should basically fund in money for this and generate this database. And this again will, as I said, generate an economy which, I mean, when this happened in UK, an economy to the tune of 50 billion has been created. So similar sort of economy can be created in India. You can have more companies developing tests for Indian population or for Asian population, uh, and these can be then used to for the benefit of the society in India.
Definitely. Exploring this field would not only help the economy of India in general, but also would help our researchers and clinicians to devise better methods to solve the problem of cancer, and to, do better test and diagnosis for the coming patients and everything. So my next query would be, what if we were to do, if we were to walk on the same path as the Western countries and do these tests ourselves in our country? What are the key challenges for do you feel someone would face while entering this space?
So if you look at the Western countries, one major difference in India and Western countries is that you have insurance coverage in the West. So that is a key differentiator. And the reason why I say that is most of the tests which are done for people in, say, for example, US, they are covered under the insurance. Whereas in India, all the tests are out of pocket expenses. So that is one major challenge that we see here. So an individual who can afford a test would only go for it. And if you look at the facilities available for the government, I mean, not everything is available there. There are more basic tests which are made available by the government of India. So, in a way, I mean, the way to tackle this problem is if we are able to develop and design kits at a lower cost. So, if Make in India is one criteria which even the Prime Minister of India is pushing for. So, if we have more Make in India content, wherein you develop kits based on the requirement of Indian population and maybe at a smaller price point, this would be a game changer. And once you have that, the volume of testing will go up, the amount of screening can be increased, and naturally that will benefit to further bring down the pricing of the test. So that's the way we can actually address this.
Definitely, sir. Having a universal health coverage in India as well would be of great benefit to not only the data collection and that aspect, but also for patients to be able to manage these diseases such as cancer, which are very expensive to begin with, and their treatment. But what do you feel, in your opinion, without the universal health coverage as of now? How can we address this huge cost issue that is related to these tests which are hindering in the adoption?
Yeah, so I mean, as I said earlier, I mean, I mean, there has to be some amount of initiative from the government and from philanthropic organizations to invest some money to generate the data and identify the biomarkers. So that will help, as I said, the startups to develop or make these tests in India, and then the pricing would come down. Now, when I mean today, if you look at a comprehensive genomic test, uh, it roughly costs to the tune of 2.5 to 3 lakh rupees or even higher. Uh, if an individual has to invest that much amount, he's definitely not be practically possible for everyone to do it. So if we bring down these tests, and the way to bring down this test is local make in India content and increasing the volumes. So right now, because the tests are expensive, the volumes are not there. So it's a chicken and egg story. We'll have to work on both ways to bring down the test, make it more cost effective, and then automatically the volumes can go up. And for that, I mean, we will need higher throughput capacities to be built up in India. And there are some initiatives right now which are happening where some organizations are looking at that aspect. And there are a few startup companies which have also designed assays made in India, which are cost effective. So I think that's the way to move ahead, and that is the one way of looking at a solution.
So, do you feel that we as a country lack technology and the technical expertise that is required is in this advanced field of genomics in some manner? Or how can we deal with the lack of technical expertise and still be able to produce some form of results in this one? What are your opinions on this one?
Okay, so if you look at technical expertise, I mean, I would break it down into two parts. One is the technical expertise to generate and bring out useful data. That expertise we have in India. We have a lot of researchers who are doing research, or as I would say, translational research, who have the capability. We also have some infrastructure, and definitely the infrastructure needs to be increased, but that is not the question. The second part of the puzzle, which is more important, is that data, how the clinician can interpret it and then utilize that data to provide a solution for the patient. I think we need to have more amount of medical oncologists, because that is an area wherein, I mean, I would say the awareness is increased, but still there are many oncologists who are going by the conventional testing methods. And in that, what happens, there is a delay because the time to get the results, because it's a step by step process. So you do one test, you find out if the result is positive or negative. If it is negative, then you do a next test, then you do a third test. So that takes a lot of time. And especially in case of cancer, if a patient has come to you in a second stage or a third stage or even a fourth stage, they don't have that much time. So it becomes very difficult to then handle that patient. So if we have more medical oncologists who are up to date with whatever the technological advantages are there in India, in the world, so they will be able to implement that and use the technology to the benefit of the patient.
Definitely, I agree with everything that you said, sir. We definitely, I also believe we do have the brains behind the research and everything. But at the same time, we would require support from allied health. agencies, the non-government organizations, as well as government itself, for eliminating this, for bridging this gap between data as well as research. Do you think there are any challenges in aspect to data analysis, or do you think where we are lacking in our resources aspect?
Yeah, so data analysis is definitely one area which can be improved. So today, I mean, there are many companies who are coming out with tools. India being the say global IT hub, I would say, because a lot of IT professionals are in this coming from India. We definitely have the know-how and the, I mean, people available, but channelizing it to generate or to analyze this data, because a data generated for say, even if I say 100,000 whole genomes, that's a lot of data which is generated, and then to derive the relevant biomarker or necessary information from that data. So you need to improve your systems which are able to identify or detect the biomarkers and then verify them. So yes, there needs to be improvement from an IT perspective. The capabilities are definitely available, but someone has to focus or channelize these capabilities so that we get a good output from it.
Yeah. So, if you could give one message to the government regarding all the challenges that you brought in forefront today, what would that be, in your opinion?
So, I mean, I would say some investment related to the generation of the data. So, as I said, other governments have invested in generating data to find out the biomarkers which are specific to the population in that country. So, India needs to do this sort of investment for the good of the society, identify, I mean, generate data, identify the biomarkers, so that automatically you have startups coming out, and so it becomes an economy which is thriving on this and amount of population that we have in India. So that is all a plus. So if you increase the volumes and everything will, the costing will come down, the implementation will become easier, and at
Yeah.
the end, the patient or the common man gets benefited by it.
Yeah, that would pave the way to more further advances in the field of diagnostics and cancer research as well. So, uh, moving on to our next question, do you feel are there any genuine concerns for data privacy and security right now?
So, yes, I would say what happens is right now, I mean, many a times we see that people, because of lack of, as I said, guidance, if you have a person who's diagnosed with, say, cancer, and provided the affordability is there, he would like to go abroad and get his testing and everything done. So you have, I mean, data which is being going outside. Also, many of the samples collected in India are being sent out. So we need to be more, I mean, careful of this. Uh, there is a lot of population in India, but the data of these individuals should be restricted from going out, and that can only happen if we have capabilities and capacity in India to do this analysis and do this testing. In a way, government of India has been, the motto of Make in India has been to try to do most of the things in India so that the data is not exported, because data right now is the most valuable asset. Companies who have data are minting money from it. Especially the pharma companies are willing to pay a huge amount of money for data from individuals. So if this data is saved, we also, I mean, are helping to maintain that privacy, and I think it's a key concern. Definitely is a concern, and if government puts in certain guidelines to avoid the export our data, that will be a big help.
Yeah. That was very insightful, sir. And definitely I feel government should do more work in making the country more atmanirbhar, as it is pointed out in the previous and latest budgets as well for healthcare. Moving on, what are some of the major precision medicine initiatives that are there globally, and how can a common man seek them for benefit?
So, from a precision medicine perspective, I mean, what is precision medicine? I mean, it's medicine given based on an individual's response or individual's genomic profile or individuals, so that you do not have two individuals with the same set of characters. So this will help uh, additionally to get a precise addressal or redressal to the problem. So precision medicine today is a very expensive affair. I mean, for that, as I said earlier, I mean, you will need to do a whole genome sequence of an individual to find out. There are some other ways of utilizing it is doing a screening of say what are the possibilities of getting a particular disease in the long run. So these are some options which are called available in the market, which is based on say genomics in a different way called as microarrays, and that screening can be done uh, by a common man. There are some labs available in India who can do that. Globally, there are many players, but yes, India also has some solutions into that line.
Just on to the last couple of questions now. How is Premas Life Sciences contributing to this space of cancer and genomics?
So, if you talk about Premas, Premas has been associated with one of the leading technology providers for genomics. That is a company called as Illumina, and Illumina is basically the platform on which 90% of the sequencing has been done globally. So, with this association, and then with certain other associations like single cell with 10x Genomics, we are trying to enable the researchers and the labs in India. So, bringing the technology to them and helping them come out with solutions which in turn can help the patient. So, whether in the area of research or when they're in the area of diagnosis as such. So, there are some ready made solutions which are available, which we are trying to bring to the market today.
That is some really great work that you all are doing at this organization. Do you think we need any structural changes in our medical education to create more awareness about recent methods of Cancer DX? For example, I have studied dentistry, and nowhere the genetics portion I very well can recall was the toughest and the most complicated aspect, and that too wasn't taught in that detail. So do you feel we need some changes in our education now that the technology and everything is advancing? Newer students should also be taught this, or what is your opinion, sir?
Absolutely. I mean, spot on. I mean, unless and until we have the newer batch of, say, doctors uh, who are well equipped with the latest advances, they will not implement these when they become professionals in their life. So, doctor who is studying medicine today, if he is not aware of what are the latest technologies available, tomorrow he is not going to practice that. He will go with the conventional technologies. So there has to be an I think a sea change has to be done. There has to be some elements of what is the latest happening in the field of molecular diagnostics, which should be a part of the curriculum, so that you have an exposure. And what we see normally is most of the times it's taught in theory. If there is some way that in practice this can be taken to the students, that will definitely help them realize the power of genomics and make them understand how they can make a real change to the world and help the patients.
Definitely, sir. That was very nice to hear and know that. Uh, we also have professionals who are wanting to develop more into genetics and genomics and these advanced medicine sciences, and I hope we can discuss this in detail in some other session because that could be taken to a great level. Concluding, what are your hopes for the future of this field, and if there is any message that you would want to share with the budding researchers and students who are planning to enter this field of science for their profession, what would be your advice and your two words for them?
So, I mean, as the title of the discussion says, I mean, genomics is definitely an integral part of life today. You have to implement genomics technologies if you want to move ahead and bring solutions, uh, help the society as a whole. And for the people who are looking at entering into this, I mean, it's a very interesting. I mean, for me personally, I have seen the impact, how an initial stage discovery has helped to completely cure cancer at one end, and at the other end, I mean, I have been through both sides of the story. A late stage detection has resulted in loss of a dear one. So I think it's an interesting thing, and people should learn more about it. New generation should be made aware of the benefits of genomics, so that they can, in whatever way possible, help to enable this across various aspects of life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. That was truly an insightful session for all of us, for the viewers, for me, and for everybody watching. Um, I feel I greatly believe that while with discussions and with thoughts, we are able to build new ideas, and with ideas there is growth. So with that, we are going to wrap up this panel discussion now. Any parting message to our audience or customers, sir? Would you want to say anything?
Well, my only message would be believe in genomics. That is the future, and that is where all the trends are globally going to, and all the newer developments are going to come through. Thank you so much. Uh,
Thank you. Yeah. Now, to close out this insightful session, I thank our eminent panelist, Mr. Dawalkar, for taking out time for this session. We also thank Primas Life Sciences for the work that they are doing in this field. We thank all our viewers for staying with us till the very end. We greatly value your time. I hope it was as enjoyable as hosting it was for us, and great information was imparted through this session for you. With that, we are going to sign off now. Stay happy, stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.
Thank you.